welcome back everyone to our Astro Weekly update. As we move into March, we're now covering the 5th to the 12th of March. And with me, I have my good friend Christa from practicalastros.com. And I'm Sonia from celestiaastrology.com. And we're both founder members of Stereosphere Kairos. Here we have our overview of the month. As I said, this week we're going to be covering the 5th to the 12th. Yep, to the 12th. A gentle introduction to what's going to be a very busy month. So I don't know if you screenshot that so you've got everything that's happening this month.
You may want to take it just a week at a time for March.
Yes, yeah, just 1 week at a time would be easier. There's going to be a lot happening, but we get a gentle introduction, I think, this week. So if I kick off with, first of all, we've got the sun during this month is going to be moving from Pisces to Aries. And that's kind of a theme we're going to be sticking with for the whole month. This Pisces to Aries area. And you can see just this build-up of planets here. Everything is moving from Pisces to Aries or back again. It feels like we've only got a few outliers that are sticking in their places, but certainly the sun and moon. And I'm going to look at Mercury here. Mercury is retrograding back across this line, this cusp between Pisces and Aries. We're going to see a lot of action here. So Mercury is going to be moving back forward across that line during this month. So we're going to be looking at the mutable signs being affected. So that Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. And then these cardinal signs as well, which is Aries, Cancer,
Libra,
and Capricorn. So if you've got any of those signs, watch out for March, because there's going to be a lot of change happening. And certainly around these early degrees, if you've got placements in these early degrees, because that's where a lot of the planets are moving around in.
Yeah, I mean, all the signs will be affected, but yeah, if you have early degree cardinal or late degree mutable, that's where the retrogrades between Mercury and Venus are going to be. And I find it significant that, we're at the spring equinox time. At every month you have the sun, the moon, and then the closer planets. So Venus and Mercury will be relatively close. They can only go so far. But the fact that they're both retrograding from Aries back over to Pisces, and that we have Saturn in Pisces and we have Neptune in Pisces, those inner planets are kind of stitching that line between Aries and Pisces at the time that the sun is also moving in, preparing us for that outer planet Neptune to move into Aries, and then Saturn eventually to move into Aries. So you'll often see these kind of pileups between two signs at certain points of the year when you have all of the closer planets, kind of tagging along around the sun. They slow down right before they go retrograde, and then they are slow to kind of build back up. So we'll get this periodically. It feels significant this time because of that major shift from Neptune out of Pisces and into Aries. That's a big one. And then the nodes have moved into Pisces and Virgo. And then Saturn is, moving through Pisces and will go into Aries. So it's like we're seeing these significant, bigger cogs in the wheel, bigger cogs in the machine kind of turning, but it's kind of highlighted by that double retrograde with Mercury, Venus. So it feels just louder, even though it's not that uncommon to have pileups. It's like this pileup is particular because of those outer planet shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the other planets that are just doing their thing, we've got Mars was retrograde. So we've had a big story with Mars that was in Leo. It traveled direct through Cancer, moved to Leo, and then retrograded back through them. But the end of February, Mars turned direct. So it's now retracing its steps. So it's like that third time that it's covering this space that it's covering. So it's kind of finishing everything up now. It's the third time. So it's worth reflecting on what your Mars in Leo Cancer story has been. This is a good time as we're doing that third pass over that area. We're kind of getting to see what's the outcome of everything that Mars is doing.
Yeah, and Mars rules Aries. So that Mars story is very important. That also speaks to all these transits kind of coming into Aries. It's like that the Aries story is informed by its ruler. Where is its ruler? Well, it's in Cancer and it's just gone through a retrograde. So that will add a flavor.
It will, which will be significant as well because we've got the eclipses coming up and we'll be in Aries for one of them. So Mars has still got something significant to contribute even while it's doing that. And then Jupiter, do you want to talk about Jupiter?
Yeah, Jupiter is finishing up. It goes through a sign in about a year, about 12 months, and it's been in its exile. It's been in Gemini, Mercury's home, but Jupiter had been retrograde. It's down direct, and it will be, it's maybe 2 more months before it goes into Cancer, where it is exalted. So, Jupiter rules Pisces, and, Pisces and Gemini just have a whole sign house square to each other. So there's a little bit of conflict, a little bit of tension. And, but that story seems like it's closing out. The Jupiter-Saturn square that happened between them feels like that was pretty significant. I think the first one was August, and then it happened over the winter. We'll have it again, but after Saturn moves into Aries and Jupiter moves into Cancer, so we'll have another square. But it seems like the Jupiter story, even though Jupiter rules Pisces, at least there's forward movement, and there's kind of like light on the horizon as it's moving towards its sign of exaltation. Not to say that it's not important, but it feels like that story is also kind of finishing up a little bit.
Again, that's going to be important, ruling the Pisces eclipses, as we see the notes in Pisces. And then Saturn, last of all, is bringing up the rear in Pisces, the last planet, and as befits its status as the outermost, it also will be moving into Aries, but later in the year, I think May.
Yeah.
And we'll be joining Neptune in those early degrees of Aries.
Yeah, the way I imagine this is like if you were on a group hike with your friends, like Saturn is the one that is just at the very back, that really just wants to hike alone, but begrudgingly was convinced to join the group and is just happy to be at the very end to kind of catch things up. So it has more silence. It's not caught up in the drama of Mercury, Venus kind of going back and forth and like spreading gossip between all of the other planets that they're touching. Mars is like happy to be ahead and just charge forth to like get out of whatever emotional rut it's in. It's just like it sees Leo and is charging forth, but Saturn is happy to be at the end of just like, I just want to go at my own pace. And then Pluto is like the weird friend that no one invited, but somehow showed up, that is also like maybe either way ahead of everyone or is like just catching up. So just, I got the visual of them all being like out in nature together and all the little cluster of drama, but Mars and Saturn are like, I just really want to be left alone.
And it's significant as well, even Pluto, we can't forget, because moving into Aries, we'll be forming a sextile with Pluto, who's now close to reaching 3 degrees, which is a new place. It only reached degrees in last year when it first ingressed. So this is new ground that it's covering. So these Aries planets will be meeting Pluto at 3 degrees Aquarius for the first time, certainly in our lifetimes. You've got to go back centuries to find Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees.
Yeah.
Totally different significations. So this is all new generational kind of energy that we're experiencing, and the Neptune in Aries as well is. So yeah, it's exciting. Certainly for me as a new astrologer, sort of working out this new stuff. There's going to be a lot happening in the next 18 months, we were just saying before we started the recording. What we're looking at, if we come back to the granular level after looking at the whole month, what we're going to be looking at for this week is the Sun in Pisces, trining Mars in Cancer. And the trines are of the nature of Jupiter, bringing opportunities in. So that's nice with the Mars direct. It's a chance for the Sun to illuminate what we've been learning with Mars retrograde. And now that it's direct, it's like shining the light on what have we learned. And for students of astrology, it's also helpful to remember that when the Sun makes these trines, that often indicates that the planet has changed direction, that when it reaches that trine. So it's a reminder that, yes, Mars did change direction just at the end of February. So this trine kind of confirms that when the Sun makes that trine. And then we have Mercury meeting Venus in Aries, and they'll be meeting a few more times, like as they both do this dance across that line. But this is at 8 degrees, so it's a little bit further out. Quite harmonious, I suppose, with Venus harmony and grace and Mercury wanting to communicate. But they're both a bit too close to the Sun for us to really know what's going on there. And it's just before Mercury retrogrades, but Venus is retrograde. So it's like a chance to tune into what's going on with them. But like I say, we'd like to know what it's all about. Yeah. And we have the Sun meeting Saturn. So kind of leaning into Cazimi season here now. This is like the first of them, with Saturn being that outlier on the group hike. It's the Sun starting to move into the Sun means business now. The Sun is on this serious journey that's going to take us through and supervise all of these shifts and light everything up, bring clarity to what's going on for us. So it's meeting Saturn, the outlier, the one who's got all the serious notes on. We were talking about how Saturn can show up and how I've like prepared for this with the slides, and that's because I've got Saturn ruling my ninth and my 10th. So the way that I'm going to show up for these things is going to be prepared and serious, and Saturn is prepared for this journey. So it's kind of showing us like a little bit of what can we expect from all of this, whereas some of the other Cazimis might be more lighthearted in the way that they meet. What do you think, Christa, about this week?
Yeah, I mean, especially that Sun and Saturn conjunction, they are kind of the odd couple, and the Thema Mundi, the luminaries oppose the Saturn houses. But I see this as, the Sun and Saturn kind of showing us illuminating the limits, illuminating kind of where the limits are. And maybe this is like a reconnaissance meeting of some sort in the Pisces house. So Saturn kind of showing us what the container is. Saturn in a water sign. Water doesn't have necessarily a symbolic shape of its own. It fills whatever shape you give it. And so I think a beneficial thing of Saturn in a water sign is like, let's give a container to these watery elements, whether it's emotional containment or artistic containment. I was kind of talking about Sean Nygaard's podcasts, and he's just one of my favorite astrologers. And he talked about in art class, he would get a blank canvas or a blank piece of paper, and then he would draw a frame in the container or on the canvas. And his teacher was like, "Why are you doing that? The canvas is itself in a container." And he was like, "This is how I hold my thoughts in. This is how I hold my creativity in." And I see that with art anyway. If you ask someone to draw you a picture, sometimes that limitlessness is just too much. But if you say, "Draw me a picture of a horse eating an ice cream cone," you're like, "Okay, I don't know how to do that, but it's contained a little bit." It actually kind of frees you up a little to then have a container to put things in. And I think that is a beneficial thing of Saturn and Pisces. And the sun being there, it's like this reconnaissance of the sun illuminating the containers that we have created in the Pisces house in our chart. And so I do like the Sun-Saturn meeting. It happens once a year. And typically, I think that it'll maybe illuminate this entire Pisces-Saturn journey, that maybe we need that reflection and that illumination. Any sort of Cazimi moment, often you can kind of glean a little bit of insight that maybe you weren't privy to before. With the Saturn there's so much knowledge that is collected by Saturn because it is that old man archetype. It is the archetype of the ages. And I don't know, of all of this whole week, I love Mercury, Venus together. They're kind of meeting in between the degrees, which they will both retrograde. So it feels kind of like getting into good trouble, kind of secret swapping, some sort of a safe house where they're going to like share secrets as they plan to go on their retrograde journeys. Of course, any sort of supportive effort for the Mars and Cancer journey will be welcome. But of all of them, I like Sun and Saturn together in Pisces. I'm looking forward to whatever illumination the sun chooses to divvy us out in the Pisces house.
You say that one of my earliest memories of my mum commenting on my creativity was, "Why is everything in a frame?"
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The same thing. Everything was like in a square. And yeah, I did that. It's funny. And it's obviously not usual where the teachers and my mum would comment on it and ask. And I was like, yeah, why I do it, but I do. Yeah, obviously that need for a container.
Mm-hmm. I know people that are very, very sentimental. They also collect boxes, like shoe boxes or gift boxes. They love boxes. It's like, it's like I flatten boxes and get rid of them, recycle them immediately. I don't need any more things. But then some people, I had an art party maybe 2 years ago where we made little altars and cigar boxes. I had a friend that worked at a cigar shop. She brought all these boxes. And then when we were kind of wrapping up the party and leaving, there were 2 people that were like, "Can I have the extra cigar boxes?" They did just one of the boxes. They're like, "I'm just going to shove them under my bed with all my other boxes, but I just want them there so that I can use them to put things in when I need them." And I thought it was fascinating that there's like a subset of people that just love to have a box stored away. A good box is a good thing. And I'm not that kind of person, but I appreciate that there are those. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a magpie for a pretty box. And I would get excited over a gift if it's in a pretty box.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Okay. So Mars trining the sun, and Mars turned direct at 17 degrees of Cancer on the 24th of February. And as I said before, that trine showed that the sun showed that the change of direction was around this time. So obviously it was a little while ago. And it shows that window of time as well, the length of time from that window. So we see the sun here in Pisces, quite close to Saturn, because we know that conjunction's coming up. And we see that Mars is over here, co-present with the moon in domicile. So that's quite a nice signature as well. But the luminaries are also in that trine, and the moon is there with its energy as well in domicile, bringing kind of like a little blessing, a little bit of support to Mars that maybe is struggling in Cancer. And of course, the changes of direction carry like a significance. We look at that chart as telling us more about what that change is about. So the fact that the moon's there is significant, that Mars has got that extra bit of support from Moon saying, come on, let me share some of that burden. You know, if this change is hard for you, that if you think of like a ship changing direction, it can take a while to turn around, and Mars has been retrograde for some time. So it has to now change that direction slowly in this watery place that it's unfamiliar with. So the moon is just like supporting a little bit, it feels like. But it's a good time for us, like we said before, to reflect on what that retrograde story was about for us. We still don't fully know. We've got until, I think it's May, is it, when
it leaves Leo, yeah,
Leo to enter Virgo, that it fully completes that full journey. But of course, this is like a significant turning point. This is a major turning point. And of course, the sun is 10 degrees within those nodes. And that seems significant, that the sun, Saturn and the nodes bringing like a fated karmic quality to this time as well. We're not quite in eclipse season, but we're very close to it, just a week or so away. Knowing that, you can start to have eclipsey events coming in. So certainly if that Mars retrograde story has spoken to you, then this turning point can be significant, I feel. So watch for events around this time. Do document them if they are significant for you.
Yeah. And even if you don't journal or tweet or skeet or do threads or anything, if you don't do anything like that, even just taking pictures with your phone is a great way to like document a time and a date of like, when did this happen? That like that in itself, I feel like is a form of journaling that maybe most people do. So even if I feel like you're right, having it be so close to the eclipse moment, I feel like all of March is within the window of like the ripple. You know, when something happens in history or in our lives, it's almost like it ripples back in time, where maybe upon reflection, you kind of might have like a prophetic dream or have an intuition or something that you weren't able to kind of pin in place of what it might mean until later when something else happened. But it like eclipses are weird like that. They feel fated. They feel like things beyond your control. And this moment, you know, it's the 8th of March, it's first week of March. I just feel like the entire month of March is going to be heavily saturated with fated moments, and the eclipses are really pinning that down. This moment in particular with the trine to the sun, I mean, I appreciate your supportive, positive interpretation of this, because, and I hope that you're right. I hope that it is supportive. The moon being near Mars, while Mars has been in Cancer retrograde, has not been easy. And when the malefics are in that connection point, supportive with each other, it has not necessarily been the easiest journey for lunar significations, for women, for mothers, for the environment, for weather, you know, all of this. Like when the moon gets near Mars, I'm kind of cringing a little bit of like, oh, I hope she's okay. I hope we're okay with this. And maybe now that Mars has turned direct, it will be more in the supportive realm. It's been astrology good, having Mars be in that trine to Saturn. Now it's in the trine to the sun. It's moving into the trine with Saturn. The moon is there. I'm just like a little, I don't know. I just kind of like tense up a little bit because it hasn't necessarily been the easiest, but maybe now that it's direct, the story will be different. Like it won't be such a busybody of just being destructive, but actually being a force of good. So yeah, I hope that your interpretation of right is it's supportive in a very clear way that we would say is subjectively supportive for us.
I would note, because the sun and Mars in that connection, that is like very dynamic action, like an action, and
yeah,
with significations, and the shadow of that can be very fierce and hot-headed and insensitive.
Yeah,
just unpleasant, and like toxic masculinity as well coming in. So that there are some really strong significations that can come up with it. And like I was thinking of like the archetype, and it's like that aggressive rap that you have, like that rap battle. That's one way, like using your words to fight is I suppose a better way than using your fist or a weapon. But also like aggression through sport or something like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you say, once you bring the moon into it, then you've got all the feminine significations as well that come with the moon. So yeah, like the sun being the masculine significations that are connecting with Mars, and then the moon being the feminine significations connecting with Mars. And of course, the moon and Mars are reversed to Jupiter, who's the exalted ruler. So Jupiter's not really able to add any help. So it's all up to the moon. It's all up to that yin side to sort things out.
There is a very close antitia with Mars and Jupiter there, though. So like it's within a degree. So there might be some support there. But I also look at it, okay, well, what else is going on? Mars rules Aries, and there's some big changes happening in Aries. And so Aries, like one of my favorite things just about fire placements is just like the ability to wield that flaming sword of truth and action and just burning away things that, are unnecessary. And having Venus there, it's retrograde, Mercury is there, and Aries, like that kind of that fiery action. Maybe that's an empowerment too. The moon and Mars there over in Cancer of just like, you have suffered enough. It's time that you stand up for what you believe in. It's time that you stand up for your own emotional participation in this, this trap. Because sometimes trines they're supportive, but they can kind of be a trap of just like circulating around. It's like, two people, someone joked around of like, a trine is like two water signs going to a bar and supporting each other of just getting wasted. Like they're supporting each other on of just like increasing the amount that they're drinking. Like is that they're supporting the behavior, but is the behavior that great? No. Sometimes you need the square to come in and be like, I see you're having a good time and you're going to regret this in the morning. Like having that confrontation is actually beneficial to you in the long run. So kind of hoping that empowered Venus and that real fiery, sharp-tongued Mercury go in there and disrupt any sort of negative, supportive nature that the malefics have with the luminaries kind of caught in the eddy of those two water signs. I like the Scorpio is just out of the picture. Like, no, nothing's going on up here. I'm not going to be a part of this. It's just between Cancer and Pisces this time.
Yeah, nothing to say over there. It's like, thank goodness I don't have to do this.
So then 3 days later, Venus is retrograding back and she'll meet up with Mercury. He's going forward. What day did Mercury go into Aries? He seems like, he's a little slow because he's also going to be retrograding, but when was this date? So I'm going to look it up real quick just to get an idea of speed. It's good when you write things. If you write the transits down every day, you kind of get that intuitive sense of speed. So March 15th, Mercury turns retrograde. It entered into Aries when? So it's like a week later. So March 3rd, Mercury went to Aries. And we have a week, 8 days later, it's already at 8 degrees. So Mercury's still pretty fast even when it's slowing down. We really do see that with those inner planets. So the two of them coming together, again, they're both going to be following that retrograde journey between Aries and Pisces. And so whenever planets can join, their significations really do merge. And I love a Mercury-Venus merging. Like, what does that mean? It's Mercury is the mind and communication and thought, and Venus is there to make harmony and make things beautiful. But in Aries, it's out of place, which means that it can be either uncomfortable or empowered or exploratory or radical or revolutionary, but both of them very fiery. So what sort of fiery combination, what sort of alchemical combination is happening between Mercury and Venus there? And that first decan of Aries, what is it? It's within Venus's bound, and that Mars, two of wands, kind of let's get something started. It's like, well, first they both have to retrograde back because they forgot something in Pisces before they can go forward again in Aries. So this whole week, I think this will be the kind of the most fun of all of the transits that are happening. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting as well with Chiron co-present and the fact that neither of them are reaching Chiron yet to connect with Chiron.
Mm-hmm.
But co-presence kind of, especially in Aries, suggests like wounds around self-expression and independence. So Mercury may be wanting to express it and Venus may be wanting to fix it and bring harmony where there was imbalance. And the fact that neither of them can get there yet, they've got to go back to Pisces first and fix something there, and then they're going to return. It seems significant. It's going to take some time, and we'll have to see how that works out when they get there.
Well, and also the new moon at the very end of the month is going to be at 9 degrees, 0 minutes. So within 13 minutes, it feels like this moment and the 29th of March with that new moon in Aries. But then, it's so close that it does feel like maybe this moment is tied into the new moon seed planting that happens at the very end of the month.
Yeah. With Aries being like that possibility of difficulties being resolved. And Mercury also has that light-hearted side, bringing messages through and also being a joker as well. I mean, there's this shadow side of this is like the shallow relating and the difficulty expressing negative feelings, but it can bring harmony to these conversations. So it's a good, if there's things that you want to resolve, it's a good time to lean into that. And again, this is the cardinal signs we're looking at. So there's a lot going on for the cardinal signs this month. So that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And then we have the Sun meeting Saturn. So this Cazimi that we were talking about with responsibility. So that's on the 12th of March, and that's happening there at 22 degrees. And as we said again, the same as with the others within that node and getting closer to the eclipse time as well. So bringing some possibility of the fatedness and still like flowing forth, but still in that trine.
Yeah. And the moon is in Virgo. So I think at this point, it's safe to say that it's definitely a part of the eclipse story, because the sun and the moon, the luminaries are now in opposition to each other by whole sign. So it definitely feels like it's involved with that.
Yeah, it's definitely getting so much closer. And archetypally, we're looking at sort of responsibility and self-discipline, but it also brings like modesty and integrity, authenticity. And we're not seeing an awful lot of that, maybe. Some people are speaking up, but there's not a lot of voices, maybe, at the moment. Focus maybe on work and duty, and the shadow can be like rigid ego structures, when you stick to things because you've said you will, and even when they're not appropriate anymore. You need some flexibility, and maybe Pisces is bringing that flexibility, especially with Jupiter in Gemini being, so you've got that double helping of mutability. So you've got Saturn and the Sun being so rigid, and Pisces and Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, both in being mutable signs, saying, oh no, the flexibility is happening with you, want it or not. You're going to have to, the tree is going to have to bend with the wind. Trees that don't snap are the ones that are able to move with the wind. So don't over-identify with roles that you've given yourself at this time, or deny yourself things as well. Like it's like that habitual self-denial when you've said you won't try things or whatever.
Because they're also sextile to that Uranus. Uranus is in Taurus, a fixed sign or fixed earth sign. So you wouldn't think that there would be like nimble doesn't necessarily, it's not the first word you think of with that, but Uranus goes in there and is the great disruptor. And so sometimes the disruption, because they're within a degree, almost 2, because it's 23 degrees, 58 minutes, but who's counting? They're within a degree of each other. That sextile, it's like, maybe it'll be that break in the habitual rigidity of like, no, it's actually a good thing to try something new. Who knew, who knew that you would like this? It broke you out of your routine. Thanks, Uranus. That's the gift that Uranus can offer us if we look at it that way. So
yeah, I read a great Substack. It was Monique, who's one of our Nightlight colleagues, and she writes in Substack called The Midnight Pages, and it was talking about Saturn being a guide through her grief. She'd recently lost her father. She saw a different side of Saturn than the side she'd always saw, and she saw him as her, because sometimes there's that feminine side, as a spiritual master and a guide, teaching her to release what isn't hers to carry. So the way that Saturn can take things away, but it can also teach you, what to carry and what not. And I kept this quote because it felt meaningful. Not with chains, not with fear, but with hands of wisdom, firm and wise, not to bind, but to free me, to teach me where my power lies.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So that I'm keeping that quote because it really resonated for me, and the sun will obviously has the potential to light that up. So also think, and it makes me think of the devil card as well, like even though the Capricorn, but that's Saturn, those chains where we tie ourselves up intentionally or wise, or where others have assigned a role to us and we stick with it, but where can you free yourself? And that might be being lit up at this moment.
Yeah, well, just that same of like drawing a box so that you have freedom within that. It's like not to bind, but to have freedom. It's like that's the irony of a container or bondage. What's the difference? Is it just your perspective of it?
Yeah, and within that box, you're free to just go wild, but the whole page is just that little bit too much, and that's kind of Piscean as well, isn't it? You got to get that container. Of course, it's getting close to Neptune. It's creating a stellium where they're all co-present. So we've got that Neptunian element as well of the illusions and the boundarylessness. As Saturn brings the boundaries, Neptune is washing them away. Chris has spoken before of the ebbs and flows of the ocean while we're in Pisces.
Yeah.
So there's some serious attention to the boundaries and the chains that are binding us and everything we're looking at. And of course, with eclipses can come in and we lose control over what some of our choices. They can bring like unexpected events, and they can not always be major. They can be tiny seeds that germinate and grow into things that we're not aware of. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a big wave that washes things away, but it can be like just a tiny seed that grows and germinates. Be aware of like the illusions that you may hold as well about the chains that are binding you.
And also the tarot card for this is the Ten of Cups. They're all, the Saturn, the Sun, North Node, and Neptune are all within that last decan of Pisces, the last decan of the zodiac. And the Ten of Cups is, these people looking at this kind of rainbow of cups, like way up in the heavens. It's like, what are the illusions? What is the finality? What is the memory? What is the, not getting lost in just the remembrance of it all, not being lost. And because Pisces is such a sentimental sign, it's where Venus exalts, and Venus, the saturation of memory with Venus and love, and the reason why, we remember things and we hold on to stories because we want to retain them. There's a sense of immortality. There's a sense of not wanting things to ever die because we're sentimental and we're nostalgic, and because we love. It's like all this kind of caught up in this emotional gumbo of all the things that get thrown into it, and not to be lost there, to honor it, but not stay there. It's like being lost in the fairyland, don't choose to stay there because it is an illusion. We have to go forward. We have to kind of break through and go to Aries 1. We have to go back there. We have to start over. We have to honor the beauty of that last decan of Pisces, but we also have to leave it. And that's what makes it precious, is because that it's temporal. It's not permanent. And having that big pileup in that last decan, those last 10 days of Pisces, it's like it's easy to get lost, and especially with the North Node and Pisces there together. I mean, that in itself, I would say these same words. The fact Sun and Saturn are also within kind of the bounds of that decan just amplifies this fatedness. The eclipses are there, amplifies the fatedness. I think we're going to probably look back. We'll probably study the month of March 2025 for a while because of so many things that are already happening. But, the moments like these really kind of shine. They triangulate light on certain days or certain placements. And this just kind of feels like one of them that we might feel the reverberations through the vibrations of time before and after this day. But this day of all of them, it really does kind of feel like it's singular to just the tone of March, the tone of like the next 18 months, the tone of this generation. I just always think of, when I see moments like this, think of like, there will be children born on this day. And what signature, what natal promise are they being called on this earth to deliver by having this as their natal chart? Like, that just blows my mind a little.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? So that completes that week, and Christa and I will be back with you on looking at the 12th to the 19th of March next week.
Yep.
That'll be a big one. We'll be looking at an eclipse for you.
Yep.
Yeah, get ready with your sea salt baths or whatever ritual you have. So you can find Christa at practicalastros.com. You can find me at celestiaastrology.com. And you can find both of us with Asteris Sophia Kairos. And yeah, we will be busy that week. We will have a workshop, won't we, on the eclipse?
Yep.
So don't forget our workshop as well. If you haven't seen it anywhere else and you want to sign up, there will be details that I'm sure you can find under the Asterosphere Kairos, and also on both of our personal websites and our personal media. To sign up, if you come live, we'll be doing chart delineations for your eclipse in breakout sessions, but there will be a recording. If you can't make it live, there'll be a recording of the teaching that we're doing on the eclipses.
Yep.
We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun, just because this is stuff that we do for each other. And we thought, this is, if we like it, that's usually a good sign. It's like, you like to do something with your friends, it's probably, and you're good at it, and you have some sort of expertise or history or whatever. It's good to share that with other people. And so this will be kind of our first workshop that's something that we do, but sharing it with people that we engage with. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good practice. I know that you're going to get something out of it because, of the work that's already been then happening behind the scenes of like making workbooks and kind of putting the presentation together. It's going to be really exciting to kind of like have all of us together and talking about it. And if you're there live, then you'll be able to get, in the breakout session, like a little mini chart reading for you in relation to the eclipses that are happening that week. We're going to do it on the 12th, I think.
Yeah.
And then the eclipse is happening 2 days later. So it'll be real time astrology for you if you join us live. So please join us.
Yeah, we're all so excited about it. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode as well, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really makes a difference. We do a happy dance every time. So it means a lot to us when you engage with us and give us feedback as well. So
yep.
Next week. Thank you.
Thanks.